10 minutes later, she found herself alone at a tiny table for two inside another traditional Irish pub overlooking the River Lee. It was dark inside, which suited the mood that was rapidly overtaking her. She was crazy to have come to Ireland, she was thinking. Only a crazy woman goes on her second honeymoon by herself, even if the trip had already been paid for in advance, even if most of the money was non-refundable. It wasn't as if she couldn't afford the loss of a few $1,000s. Peter had been more than generous in his settlement offer. Clearly, he'd wanted to get away from her as quickly and with little effort as possible. Marcy found herself chuckling. Why should he put any more effort into their divorce than he put into their marriage? You find something amusing, do you? A voice asked from somewhere above her head. Marcy looked up to see a roguishly handsome young man with enviably straight black hair falling into luminous dark green eyes. She thought he had the longest eyelashes she'd ever seen. What can I get you, darling? The young man said, notebook, notepad, and pencil poised to take her order. Would it be too ridiculous to order a cup of tea? Marcy surprised herself by asking. She'd been planning on having a Beamish, as the tour guide had suggested. She could almost hear Peter admonish her. It's just like you to be so contrary. Not ridiculous at all, the waiter said, managing to sound as if he meant it. Tea sounds wonderful, she heard someone say. Could you make that too? Beside her, a chair scraped the wood planks of the floor. Do you mind if I join you? The man sat down before Marcy had a chance to respond. Marcy recognized him as a member of her tour group, although she couldn't remember his name. Something Italian, she thought, placing him in the window seat 3 rows from the front of the bus. He'd smiled at her as she'd made her way to the back. Nice teeth, she'd heard Peter whisper in her ear. Vic Sorvino, he said now, extending his hand. Marcy Taggart, Marcy said without taking it. Instead, she gave a little wave she hoped would satisfy him. Why was he here? There were other tables he could have chosen to sit at. Taggart, so you're Irish. My husband is. Vic looked toward the long bar that ran the entire length of the room. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were here with anyone. He's not here. Doesn't like bus tours? Doesn't like being married, Marcy heard herself say. At least to me. Vic looked vaguely stunned. You're not big on small talk, are you? Marcy laughed in spite of her desire not to and pushed at the mop of curls falling into her narrow face. So much hair, she thought in her mother's voice, for such a tiny face. I'm sorry, she said now. I guess that falls under the category of too much information. Nonsense, I'm of the school that believes information is always useful. Stick around, Marcy said, immediately regretting her choice of words. The last thing she wanted to do was encourage him. The waiter approached with their teas. He probably thinks we're crazy ordering tea in a pub, Marcy said, following the handsome young man with her eyes as he returned to the bar, watching him flirt with several of the women clustered on high stools around him. He can have any woman he wants, she thought absently, estimating his age as early 30s and wondering if her daughter would have found him attractive. Well, actually, Americans have the wrong idea about Irish pubs, Vic was saying, his easy baritone pulling her back into the conversation. They're not bars, and they're as much about socializing as drinking. People come here to see their friends and neighbors, and lots of them choose tea or soft drinks over alcohol. I've been reading the guidebooks, he admitted sheepishly. Then, when Marcy remained silent, where are you from? Toronto, she answered obligingly. Oh, Toronto's a lovely city. I was there a few times on business. He paused, obviously waiting for her to ask when, what business. When she didn't, he told her anyway. It was a few years back. I was in the manufacturing business. Widgets, he said. You manufacture midgets? Marcy asked, realizing she'd been listening with only half an ear. Vic laughed and corrected her gently. Widgets, small mechanical devices whose names you usually can't remember. Gadgets, he said, explaining further. Marcy sipped her tea and said nothing. I'm an idiot, she thought. I sold the business and retired last year, he continued. Then, when no further questions were forthcoming, I'm from Chicago. Marcy managed a tepid smile. She'd always liked Chicago. She should have gone there, she was thinking as her cell phone began ringing in her purse. Chicago had wonderful architecture and interesting neighborhoods. It didn't rain almost every day. Is that your phone? Vic asked. Oh, she said, locating it at the bottom of her purse and lifting it to her ear. Hello? Where the hell are you? Her sister demanded angrily. Judith? Where have you been? I haven't heard from you in over a week. What's going on? Is everything all right? Has something happened to Darren? Your son's fine, Marcy, her sister said. It's you I'm worried about. Why haven't you returned any of my calls? I haven't checked my messages. Well, why the hell not? Because I didn't want to speak to you, Marcy thought, but decided not to say. Judith was obviously upset enough already. Marcy pictured her sister, older by 2 years, pacing the marbled floor of her new luxury condominium. She was undoubtedly dressed in her standard uniform of black yoga pants and matching tank top because she'd either just finished working out or was just about to start. Judith spent at least half the day exercising, a 30-minute swim first thing in the morning, followed by an hour or two of spin classes, then an hour and a half of hot yoga in the afternoon. Occasionally, if time allowed and she was in the mood, she'd throw in an additional Pilates class for my core, she insisted, although her stomach was already as hard and as flat as steel. Possibly she was munching on a piece of raw carrot, Marcy thought. Her sister's diet consisted solely of sushi, raw vegetables, and the occasional spoonful of peanut butter. Judith was on husband number 5. She'd had her tubes tied when she was 18, having decided when she and Marcy were still children never to have any of her own. You really want to take that chance? She'd asked. Something's not right, she said now. I'm coming over. You can't. Marcy allowed her gaze to drift toward the pub's large front window. Why not? Because I'm not there. Where are you? A long pause. Ireland? What? I'm in Ireland, Marcy repeated, knowing full well Judith had heard her the first time and holding the phone away from her ear in preparation for Judith's shriek. Please tell me you're joking. I'm not joking. Is someone with you? I'm fine, Judith. Marcy saw a shadow fall across the front window. The shadow stopped and waved at the bartender. The bartender acknowledged the shadow's wave with a sly smile. You aren't fine. You're off your rocker. I demand you come home instantly. I can't do that. The shadow stepped into a cone of light, then turned and disappeared. Oh my God, Marcy gasped, jumping to her feet. What is it? Vic and Judith asked simultaneously. What's going on? Her sister added. My God, it's Devon, Marcy said, slamming her hip into a nearby table as she raced for the door. What? I just saw her. She's here. Marcy, calm down. You're talking crazy. I'm not crazy. Marcy pushed open the pub's heavy front door, tears stinging her eyes as her head swiveled up and down the tourist-clogged street. A light drizzle had started to fall. Devon, she called out, running east along the River Lee. Where are you? Please come back. Please come back. Marcy, please, Judith urged in Marcy's ear. It's not Devon. You know it's not her. I know what I saw. Marcy stopped at St. Patrick's Bridge, debating whether or not to cross it. I'm telling you, she's here. I saw her. No, you didn't, Judith said gently. Devon is dead, Marcy. No, you're wrong. She's here. Your daughter is dead, Judith repeated, tears clinging to each word. Go to hell, Marcy cried. Then she tossed the phone into the river and crossed over the bridge. Thank you.